You're watching a fire juggler. Very medieval and perfect to set us off for our second night of Halloween fun. Looking down at Butler's Wharf, or Horsley Down Old Stairs. And our fire juggler is at the foot of Horsley Down Old Stairs there. And for our first spooky and haunted location. Dead Man's Hole, right over there, just beneath Tower Bridge. So you'll join me there for a little look at that. And welcome to night 2 of Paranormal London. I've shown this spot in the daytime, and it is Dead Man's Hole, directly underneath Tower Bridge. And this dark and notorious little spot to begin us off with night 2 of our Paranormal London. This here, Dead Man's Hole, because of the way the river goes, the course of the tides and whatnot, this is where bodies would wash up, and they had to be brought in and taken up and in through there. And what they were brought in with, I'll go and show you now. And this here is the corpse hook, what they used to take the bodies in with. And in through here. The mortuary, which you'll be glad to hear is no longer in use. If you want to see historical images of the inside of the mortuary, check out my Tour of St Catherine Dock series, part 3, and you'll see that. And if you believe in ghosts or spirits, I bet there's certainly a few in this little spot here, isn't there? And now we leave Dead Man's Hole. Looking out over at Horsley Down. And you'll join me a little further downriver at Wapping Old Stairs for our next ghost story. and a good Halloween evening to you once again, ladies and gents. You join me on the very historic Wapping High Street in front of the very historic Town of Ramsgate pub, both of which will be fully covered in an upcoming tour I've got planned for you called Wapping Old Wapping, and that'll be covered in the daytime. There's some great history around this area, but while we're here is ghosts, and that's where I'm going to take you to next. The Town of Ramsgate pub dates itself back to the 17th century or possibly even earlier, but if you go down here, this little alleyway, you'll come to Wapping Old Stairs. And one of the ghost stories that we can actually say relates to a real historical person relates to the old Town of Ramsgate pub and the infamous hanging judge, Judge Jeffreys. I'll tell you about him once I've manoeuvred my way down here. Now if we walk down here, this takes us to this causeway down Wapping Old Stairs. Wapping Old Stairs, like Wapping High Street and the Town of Ramsgate, will be fully covered in its own series. We're all about ghosts and ghost stories this evening, and our first one linked to the infamous hanging Judge Jeffreys. Now, when his master, King James, had to flee, and Judge Jeffreys knew his time was up, he had a lot of enemies, did Judge Jeffreys. He came here and planned to catch a boat to Germany or the Low Countries from Wapping Old Stairs. Anyway, as total justification would have it, one of the people that he'd sentenced to a very, very severe whipping happened to be in the pub and recognised him. He received a very stern beating, it said, and in the end guards from the Tower of London were sent for to rescue Judge Jeffreys, and he himself pleaded to be taken to that most infamous of places, the Tower of London. Now, the new king, when he came in, he couldn't have this judge executed, but they wanted rid of this horrible, evil, sadistic man. He was a real sadist. He liked hurting people and he liked inflicting punishments and pain. That's what he did. And he was an alcoholic as well. So they happened upon the idea to bung him in a cell in the Tower of London and give him enough brandy with which to fairly quickly drink himself to death, which he did. But it's said sometimes on ghostly nights his cries of mercy, mercy can be heard from this pub. And of course, for the man that gave no mercy, who was often heard to say, "Not guilty, there's no such thing as not guilty in my courtroom," there was no mercy for him. So that's our first ghost story. And Wapping Old Stairs, our next ghost story, which is a story more than anything, but it shows how interestingly a story can become deeply embedded in the human psyche. Now, these look like tiles when you first glance at them. They're not. They're granite blocks that have been deeply carved to stop people from falling over and slipping, because many people come down these stairs in their day, both alive and dead, because a good number of bodies were dumped into the Thames from the old river stairs, Wapping Old Stairs including. But you'd come down to your stairs onto this causeway, which dates back to at least the 17th century, like the pub, and is believed to be older, the causeway. And you'd catch your boat and off you would go. But our next ghost story, which is a story, I will have to pause my phone and get my notes out and read it to you. This is all ghost stories tonight really, but there will feature just one historical image at the end of this video of this spot years ago. Now I'm going to pause you and we shall begin. And like every good ghost story, I shall say, and now we shall begin. Early on a Sunday morning in July 1971, 3 workmen were making their way along a deserted street close to the river in Wapping district. The workmen were startled to see what appeared to be a figure dressed in 18th century attire of a clergyman. His face was said to be deathly pale, with 2 horrible glaring eyes. Curiosity compelled the workmen to turn and take another look, only to discover that the man had completely vanished. It seemed that they had witnessed the phantom evil vicar of Ratcliffe Wolf, who is said to haunt the Wapping and Limehouse areas. During the 1770s, the vicar had run a seaman's mission alongside being the vicar of St Anne's in Limehouse. He was looked upon as a respected member of the local community for his good deeds. Nevertheless, his true purpose was a most dastardly one. By all accounts, he murdered his wealthy guests for their money and disposed of their bodies at Ratcliffe Old Stairs and Wapping Old Stairs in the dark. He would dispose of these bodies in the dark, murky waters of the Thames. His nefarious crimes were eventually discovered, and he was hung in chains at Wapping Old Stairs until 3 tides had passed over him. To this day, people still claim to have seen this loathsome spirit along the desolate riverfront. Local people who worked in the river would frequently take a wide berth of the area late at night. However, there seems to be some doubt over the legitimacy of the tale. A journalist named Frank Smith claimed that he had made up the story for a magazine he had worked on, and he said that he had decided to invent a good old-fashioned ghost story, and the derelict wolves of Wapping seemed the perfect location for the mythical old vicar. Nevertheless, the reaction to the original story was such that it soon became accepted that there was a phantom parson, and even when Smith tried to convince some old river workers that it was a fantasy, they replied no, they had heard the story from their grandfathers when they were boys. Maybe the story was not Smith's fabrication after all. Perhaps he too had been told of the tale many years before, and it had remained dormant in his mind, only coming to the forefront when he saw inspiration for a ghostly tale. So, the Phantom Parson, he was said to be hung in chains here. Now, me being me, I looked into the vicars of St Anne's at Limehouse, and 1750s, 60s and 70s, the parsons there, none of them were hung in chains, and they all seemed to die respectably enough in their beds. So it just goes to show how a good ghost story can stick in the psyche of the human mind. But on the subject of the old parson of St Anne's at Limehouse, I'll take you there now. And here we are at St Anne's Limehouse, and the lodging house that the murderous vicar is said to have kept is just along here. Now, ghostly parson or no, this little nook that takes you into the churchyard, it really does have a strange and unusual feeling, I must admit. And here we are. You see those spiky things up there? They're put there to stop body snatchers dragging a shrouded corpse over the gate. And it's a very, very good ghost story, because our murderous parson, all parsons and vicars had their little horse and buggy or their little horse and carriage in those days, and no one would have thought anything of a vicar dashing to and fro in the middle of the night to perform an emergency baptism, give the last rites to someone. And I'll walk you around the ghostly nighttime confines of St Anne's Limehouse. Just over there is the Limehouse pyramid, and it was given a wash recently after 200 odd years. I'll be featuring that at some point separately. This churchyard itself is said to be haunted, and over the years, a good number of times, the ghost of an old lady in a black dress wearing a black bonnet has been seen walking through the churchyard and out through that gate. Where she goes to, no one knows, because she disappears as she goes through the gate. She appears in a couple of books and things like that. And I don't normally walk along this bit, but as it's Halloween, this is the crypt in here, and it's going to be undergoing renovations soon. They want to turn it into a community space. Now, I covered St Anne's and that crypt a few years back. If you're interested in that, go on YouTube, type in St Anne's Limehouse, London Luke, and it will take you to my coverages. I don't like to mangle too many things up in one subject, and it's strictly ghost stories tonight. Is it in this one? Yes. Just here are mason's marks from when the church was restored and when it was being built and things like that. Look, you've got TH LIGS 1734 or 84. The reason that was done in the old days, you would often find symbols and things on the stones, because these buildings were rendered, usually in lime. Those markings were done by the masons, particularly with markings themselves being illiterate. A lot of them would just put their mark on it, so the foreman knew who'd done what job and when.
History of the church.
I am, yeah.
Interesting history. This is a guy on YouTube.
Oh, that was brilliant. I just had a lovely conversation with two fellas there about the local history. It's nice when you get people into local history, and they said I've gained 2 new subscribers. I was telling them about Judge Jeffreys, the infamous hanging judge. Now you can see the skips and things that are here, which will start in the renovations. This churchyard, like many old churchyards, was once filled with gravestones, and they've all been neatly lined along the walls, which some people say that taking someone's name away from their resting place is a great recipe for an unrestful spirit on our Halloween theme. Oh, God, I smell gin. God, it's really strong gin. There must be something they're using in there to the renovations. And here we are, back where we began. And here we are, back outside the churchyard gates and where we began. And as we head towards the end of our little video, I'll take us firstly to one of our main culprits in our Paranormal Parson series here. That's the Ratcliffe Old Stairs, where our Paranormal Parson is said to have dumped some of his bodies. Then from there, as we finish off, you'll join me back at Wapping Old Stairs. So, off we go to Ratcliffe Stairs. Hello my people. You joined me earlier in the day on Narrow Street. I have covered Narrow Street before, but we'll cover it again soon. Cracking historical little area. But our main point of interest are the first set of river steps the ghostly parson of St Anne's is said to have dumped his body at. These are Ratcliffe Old Stairs, and the only tinsy bit that remains of the old really is this, but the point itself goes back many years, many hundreds of years. Been modernised of course over the years. So the short distance from Limehouse Church to here by pony and cart would not have been a great distance at all, and when the tide is fully in, the stairs then and now would have been fully submerged. So the Paranormal Parson of St Anne's, if he was a real person, could quite easily have dumped bodies here. Here you get to see the old wharf and everything. There's swans here nowadays and pretty decent river views. But back in the Paranormal Parson's day, wow, Thames watermen, people going about their lawful legal business. And like with Wapping Old Stairs, people going about unlawful, lawless business. Swans, look. Canary Wharf, and the terrains thereof. And looking over towards our next set of river steps, which are along there, which is Wapping Old Stairs. And here, once you again, you can see new built upon the old. And that's Ratcliffe Cross Old Stairs. Pretty famous spot in history as well, because some famous nautical journeys set sail from this point. So I hope you all enjoyed, and you'll join me at the next set of ghostly river steps a bit later in the evening, Wapping Old Stairs. And of course, I must end us off with what we actually came here for, Wapping Old Stairs and the ghosts of Wapping Old Stairs. Is that the souls of the long unrested dead? No, it was an Uber boat just gone by. Hope you all enjoyed the Halloween 2-night special. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next video. And I did promise you an historical image, didn't I, of Wapping Old Stairs, and it's a now and then one. The top one was taken a few years ago, shows you a daytime image of the spot. Sadly the sign is gone now, but the bottom image you can see taken in the 1930s. So that's our little look back in the past. I hope you've all enjoyed. And as I said, this little spot will be covered properly in the daytime in our tour of Walking Old Wapping, which will be an upcoming one.